Namaskar to everyone, all the audience, and our illustrious speaker, Dijit Nadmuriji, and our whole meeting, and our Rajiv Vermaji, who has arranged it. Today's talk is going to be one of the very interesting talks about which most people will not know much, because we only know that Rig Veda gives us spiritual information, and it does, and we only know that Rig Veda gives us the spiritual information, and have no idea about the historical events, geographical events, which actually connect that civilization, that period, to the current India, and which geographies are mentioned. And so we are fortunate to have Dijitji basically picking up this topic and giving us details of that. I believe that this talk may continue for more than one session, and therefore, because it's a large undertaking. So today, I will let G basically introduce the topic and what he's going to cover. Most of you must be aware of the G because you have listened to his talks. But for those who are new to this area, to him, I should mention that Dijitji is a scientist he was a scientist in ISRO, and I think probably for the love of the things which he is doing, which is not connected to the ISRO issues, he has been working on India's history and the geographical issues for quite some time, and has published actually one of the first maps which I had seen of the Mahabharata period was from Dijit quite some time ago. I forget when it was published in 2004 or something like that. And he has been working on the Purana history from the Puranas, Itihasa, and the geography of these what is mentioned in these texts. So today I will now hand over it to Dijitji. Please take it over from here and enlighten us. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the introduction, Dr. Kaulji. So, as all of you are aware, this particular talk is basically about Rig Veda, and also I have published a book on the particular topic, that is the rivers of Rig Veda. And basically, what it does is analyzing the Rig Vedic text and looking at it very much very focused information, that is about the rivers. So many of us will be knowing about many rivers mentioned in the Rig Veda, like Saraswati is very much popular and famous, and many of people have know about the river Saraswati, and it is also a very important river when it comes to the identification of Rigvedic geographical region as very much inside India, because even that's a very simple fact is currently distorted by many of the motivated Western historians and geographers. So it is unfortunate that even today in 2020, many of the researchers, especially motivated by certain ideas, they are trying to show that the river Saraswati is in Afghanistan or somewhere else. But we have moved a lot from that kind of debate, and there is absolutely no doubt about the location of the river Saraswati, because of the rivers which are in the neighborhood of Saraswati, like Yamuna, Drishatwadi, and Satluj River, Sutudri. So it's very clearly and unambiguously mentioned in the Rig Veda about the location of the river Saraswati, etc. But because currently in the 21st century, what we call as woke culture, maybe it's a new term, but this particular kind of concept or problem was there even in the academic research. Something which is very obvious, people are complicating and distorting. So that is just like a background note. As a result of it, I will say that in the Wikipedia and all, you still see, if you look at there is a Wikipedia article on the rivers, Rigvedic rivers, etc. They are unnecessarily speculating and saying that it might be in Afghanistan, etc. But you have to consider, because there is no point in correcting that Wikipedia like pages, etc. Because it's politically motivated. You correct it, second day they will come and edit it, etc. So let it go like that, and people are no longer people are caring about that kind of political gymnastics. So let me now open my slides and introduce to you about this particular book and also about Rigveda. Just give me a moment. Yeah. So I'm just sharing the screen. So you are able to see the screen, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
Yeah.
so in the first slide, let me introduce the book. So this is the cover design of the book, The Rivers of Rigveda. And it's a geographical exploration. So that is the title of the book. And currently, as we speak, it is in the Amazon of India, one of the best sellers in the category of Indian history. The ranking switch between number 5 and 6 like that. And it is the best among the hot new releases in the Indian history. Like, so there the ranks shift from 1, 2, 3 like that. So this is just the introductory cover page, and you can see the book is like endorsed by researchers, scholars like Dr. Conrad Elston, David Frawley, and Vishal Agrawal, Raj Vedam, Ajay Chaturvedi, and my friend Manoshi Sinha. So it just gives some introduction to the book, and where to buy the book if people are interested in buying and looking at it. Currently, it is released in Amazon India, and then Amazon.com, that is in the US, and then Amazon.co.uk, that is in Europe. And it's also there in variations like Amazon.d, like Germany and France and Japan. And Flipkart also have now released in India. And in the Notion Press, that is the publisher's website, you can there also you can get the book. So it's like the book is released on 18th of January. So currently in the 2 weeks period. So towards the end of the 2 weeks, that is somewhere in the first week of February or early half of the February, it will be available in the online like ebooks also, like Amazon Kindle, Kobo, Google Play, iBooks, like that. And the book is not it's not just single dimensional, or the information extend beyond the pages of the book. So you have these additional resources that you can utilize. One is the dedicated page called Rivers of Rigveda in the Dharma Digital website. So Dharma Digital is one of my websites where it is primarily meant for the holograms of Devatas. So it is like dharmic Devata holograms of different divinities, like in Krishna, Rama, all of them in 3D, and can be rendered in augmented reality, virtual reality. So I have created a page there in the website where anybody who has bought the book, they can also get the high quality digital maps of Rigvedic geography, which I have uploaded into this particular page, and ancientvoicewiki.com. So that is one site I have established in 2010. So currently it is completed 10 years, and there is a wiki or sub website called Rigveda, where you will get all the 10 mandalas of the Rigveda, the English translation of Ralph Griffith, and also some noun analysis of 1,300 nouns in the Rigveda. All these things you can get here actually. So these are the two resources that extend beyond the book. Let me just show you this share, and then I'll show you this is the book, Rivers of Rigveda. And how to access this website, there are two, there is one page which is in the beginning, where you can have this QR code, and you can just show your camera, and it will take you to the website. Or otherwise, like if you if you just you type the URL as a normal way, you will be able to access this particular this particular website, it is shown here. So these are anyway, you can actually type and then get into these locations. So whichever way, like the people who have got the book, they can just scan this QR code and reach here like that. And so if you look at into the so this particular talk is an introductory talk, and the plan is like we may have a continue it like a series. So I'm just showing the introductory pages of the particular book. So you have basically the foreword, and the foreword is provided by Dr. Conrad Elst, and then you have preface. And since the book have a huge number of Sanskrit words, I'm using the IAST notation, that is International Sanskrit Alphabet, International Alphabet of Sanskrit, like that. So that I will explain it subsequently. And then you have the introduction and a summary of the Rigvedic chronology. So I am referring to Shrikant Talagiri's two books, which I have established very beautifully. He has established the Rigvedic chronology. By that, what I mean is that the various mandalas of the Rigveda, if I go to the basics, then the Rigveda have 10 mandalas, and the sequence of the mandalas, the name, how it is sequenced now, that is not exactly the same way the oldest book is oldest to the newest book. The chronologically they are not same. So, for example, the oldest book is the 6th book, and next comes the 3rd and the 7th book. So, for example, the oldest book, 6th book, is actually the Bharatwaja Mandala, where the suktas are all primarily from the Bharatwaja family, and the 3rd book, that is the next in sequence of the chronology, it is from Vishwamitra. So Vishwamitra is and his like descendants and disciples, they are actually contributing the suktas for the 3rd mandala, and 7th is the Vasishta mandala. So Vasishta is contributing the suktas. So there is a kind of a chronology like that. So that is explained in the 2nd chapter. And then the Rigvedic patrons. So the patrons means they are the kings or chiefs who are actually patronizing the Rigvedic composers. So yaga and yajna, or invocation of devatas, they are all done in presence of these patrons and they are also providing all the resources for the rishis and sustaining the rishis so that they can compose like that, compose suktas. And you have the Rigvedic rishis or the poets, we are explaining them. And then the Rigvedic devatas, so Indra, Agni, like that, all the devatas mentioned in the Rig Veda, that all of them are explained here. So if you look at the Rigvedic patterns, there are Panchajanas, and the Panchajana is the basics, the foundation of the Rigvedic people. So they are the 5 people, like in the Puranas, they are mentioned as the children of Yayadi. So Yadu, Durvasa, like that, there are 2 children, and that is from Devayani, the wife of Yayadi, and then Anu, Drihyu, and Puru, 3 other kings from Sharmishta, the second wife of Yayati. So that is how the Puranas mention about the 5 different people. 5, that is a Panchajana. And there is in the Rig Veda, this particular story is not there, that they are children of Yayati or they are children of Sharmishta and Devayani, but these people are very much there. So they are very much historically historical reality, something like as historical as Chandragupta Maurya or Mahapadmananda, because these Panchajanas are frequently mentioned in the Rig Veda. And then out of them, the Puru tribe, they are the most powerful because they retain the central region, the Kurukshetra region, which is mentioned in the Rig Veda as Varaprithviya or as Nabhaprithviya, like that. That is the best place in the world, like that. So Kurukshetra is mentioned in the Rig Veda, but it is not mentioned by the name Kurukshetra, but with other names like Varaprithviya, Nabhaprithviya, etc. So among the Purus, the most powerful was the Tripsu branch, and we are well aware of the Tripsus, but in the Itihasas they are mentioned as the Panchalas. Of course, the Panchala means there are it is a confederation of the 5 tribes and centered around the Tripsu tribe. So some of the ancestors of the Tripsus, like some of the associated tribes of the Tripsus, like Sanjaya and Somaga, all of them are combined. Then Krivi, and then one more is the Bharata, the primary, the parental branch Bharata. All of them combined called the Panchalas. But for all practical purpose, the Rigvedic Tripsus are almost ancestors of the Aidhasic Panchalas who are mentioned in the Mahabharata. And then there is a tribe called the Parthavas. Parthavas are the Anu, like they are the Anavas. And for example, the historical Parthians, the Iranians, they are actually a descendant of this Parthava tribe. You may be familiar, some of the people will be familiar with the king called Prithu. He is mentioned here, and very not very prominently, but often it mentioned in the conversation between the Pandavas. They mentioned about the king Prithu. So he seems to be the founder of this particular Parthava dynasty. It's very old, and some of the kings in the Parthava, like Apyavartin Chayamana, and then Kavi Chayamana, all of them are historic, mentioned in the Rig Vedas, and almost like a historical kings. And then there are the Trikshis. They are kind of a branch of Ikshagos who are very active in the western regions. When I say western, it means west of Saraswati, like along the Sindhu River. And then the Shariatas, that in the Idihasas, they are known as the High Hayas. Then the other Purus. So in my particular research, which is gone into this particular book, I have identified these other Purus as the Samvarana Bharatas, or they are a particular branch of the Bharata dynasty, starting with Samvarana. And all these famous people, the Pandavas and Kauravas, Shantanu, Devapi, all of them part of this particular lineage of the Bharatas. So that is how that missing thread of the history that connects Rigveda and Mahabharata, that is actually this group of people. And then numerous other kings. So that is what it's here in this particular content. And you have the Rigvedic poets. So there are pre-Rigvedic poets, that is the sages or the rishis who were living earlier than the 6th mandala of the Rig Veda. So they are much older. So even in the oldest mandala of the Rig Veda, they are mentioned as ancient. So some of them are like Angirasa, the oldest Angirasa, the oldest Rishi named Bhrigu. All of them are earlier than the Rigvedic period and earlier than the 6th mandala. Then there are Rigvedic composers who are actually participating as composers, contributing suktas to the Rig Veda. So they are called the Rigvedic composers. So some of them are like Vishwamitra and Vasishta. All of them actually living somewhere close to the King Sudas, who is one of the most dominant Trishvarada king. And this section, the 5th, is Indra, Agni, and other devatas. They are mentioned here. And from 6th onwards, we are into the topic, that is the Rigvedic rivers. So one chapter summarizes the chronological analysis of the Rig Veda. And then using that data, the expansion of the Rigvedic geography is explained. And so in this particular point, of the Aryan invasion theory is automatically refuted in this, because when you just only just tabulate the data about the Rigvedic rivers, how the Rigvedic people expanded, that itself is from a east to west direction. It is irrefutable information found in the Rig Veda. So without telling a single word, this particular tabulation of the expansion of the Rigvedic people across the rivers, that completely refutes the Aryan invasion theory. And then I am defining a 0 point of the Rigvedic geography. That is the place called Ilaspada and then Nabhaprithviya, Varaprithviya. Then it's nothing none other than Kurukshetra mentioned in the Itihasas, like Mahabharata, primarily in the Mahabharata. Coincidentally, it is also mentioned in the Ramayana. And then you have the other Rigvedic regions like Sapta Sindhu, which is basically the land of the 7 rivers, in which it's primarily between the Saraswati and the Sindhu river. So between the 2 rivers, there are this 6 tributaries of Sindhu and the Sindhu itself. Total 7 rivers they are mentioning. And there is a region called Saryanavat, a very prominent region, Rigvedic region, which is somewhere around the Takshashila, currently in Takshila, Pakistan, that area, the Saryanavat region. And then there is Matsya and Chedi, 2 kingdoms, 2 places, 2 Janapadas mentioned in the Mahabharata and Ramayana. They find some mention in the Rig Veda. So they are also some, we can consider some regions which is found mentioned in the Rig Veda. And you have from the chapter number 9 onwards, actually it is about each individual river. So and I'm following the chronology of Talgiri, starting with 6th mandala, then the 3rd mandala, then the 7th mandala. That is the early Rigvedic period. And after that, you have the 4th and 2nd mandala, that is the middle Rigvedic period. And after the middle Rigvedic period, you have the late Rigvedic period, that is 5th mandala, then 8, 9, and 10. So there the sequence is correct. 8, 9, and 10, the mandala number and the actual chronological sequencing are both correct. So 5th mandala, 8th and 9th and 10th. So these 4 constitute the late Rigvedic period. So I'm going through into the Rigved, reading it from the 6th mandala onwards chronologically, 3, 7, 4, 2, 5, 8, 9, 10, like that. And then you will get the sequence correctly. So the first river mentioned is Haryupya and Yavyavati. So that identification, everything I'm mentioning in that chapter. Then the Ganga, and then the Saraswati, then Rishabdvati, that is a river, a tributary of Saraswati and flowing through Haryana. That is Chautang River, currently known as Chautang River. And Saraswati, because of this, because it lies between Ganga in the east, and then this Sududri, you can see the 14th chapter, Sududri in the west. Because it's this particular positioning itself is clear. If at all you are locating the Rigvedic Saraswati, it has to be between Ganga River and Sududri, that is Satluj River. So there is no question of any speculation of it being any Afghan river, etc. It's just unscientific and unfaithful political maneuvering, nothing other than that. Because if you go through this particular Rigvedic chronology, it is straight between Ganga and Sududri. And of course, Drishadwati and Abhaya, both of them are tributaries of Saraswati. So Saraswati lies between Ganga and Sududri, and Vipash is anyway tributary of Sududri. So Sududri and Ganga define Saraswati as a river which lies in between them. So I'm just giving some early information, and the entire analysis, everything is there, like in these chapters. The total analysis, and there will not be any way anybody can refute or circumvent this particular analysis. Very clearly, it is defined as between Ganga and Satluj. And you have the Yamuna River mentioned in the subsequently we are focusing on the Yamuna River. So, for example, here in the Yamuna River, we will have one of the oldest battle in the Rigveda that is mentioned in the Yamuna River, where it is the enemy, like for example, the enemy is one group, and both the Anavas, that is the Parthavas, Abhyavaratin Chayamana, and then the Bharata king Srinjaya, they are on the one side. I mean, in fact, that time it is something like the Iranians were not separated from the Indians, and they were jointly fighting a battle. So somewhere in the Yamuna region. So that all the things are mentioned here. And then the Parushni River, that is currently known as the Ravi River, which is defining the India-Pakistan border. And it is quite surprising that one of the biggest battles of the Rigveda, which is explained in the third mandala, the Battle of Parushni, and it is very famous as the Dasharajana battle, where 10 kings were fighting against Sudas. The biggest battle is fought on the current India-Pakistan border. Can you believe that? So, I mean, it's a coincidence, because at that time there was no concept of Pakistan or India. But the Ravi River, that is the Parushni River, actually currently flows along the border of India and Pakistan in Punjab. So this battle is fought between the two shores. I mean, between the two sides. One army was on the eastern side, that is the Suda's army was on the Indian side, and the 10 kings were confederated on the other side. But of course, there was no current boundaries at that time, but it's just a matter of surprise. Similarly, and then you have Asikni, that is the Chenab River, which is just flowing to the northwest of Parushni, and then the Vidasta River. And there are some important revelation about the Vidasta, that is a Chalam River. I have introduced in the book, so I'm not doing any spoilers here, so you can read the book and understand. Then there's Sindhu River, Sarayu. Sarayu is a very important river because it connects with the Ramayana. And whatever book, Rivers of Rigveda, it is a first book in a trilogy. I have a sequence, it's like a trilogy. So first book is about Rigveda, second book I'm going to write, I mean currently almost 50% complete, is about Ramayana geography. And the third book is about Mahabharata geography. I have sequences like that. So the connecting link between Rigvedic geography and the Ramayana geography is the Sarayu River. So it's very significant. I mentioned it. It's one of the largest chapters in my book, and a lot of new insights I'm introducing in that particular book, particular chapter regarding the Sarayu River itself, and also about the chronology of Sri Rama. And then you have so not very popular rivers like Urjayandi, Sharabas, Shifa, Anjasi, Tulsi, like that. Some unpopular rivers are there. Then Pupa is Kabul River. Krumu is the Kuram River. They are in Pakistan currently. Tributaries, western tributaries of Indus River. Anitabha, that is another river. That is a tributary of Indus. They are all west to the Indus River. Gomati, then Mehetnu, then Archiki and Sushoma, then the Rasa River, and then you have the Sarama Pani, the Pani kind of conversation between the Sarama Pani, always mentioned in this particular chapter. Very interesting chapter, and there are some historical significance to this Sarama Pani conversation that I am introducing. Then the Tratsama, Shushartu, and Svetya rivers. They are all tributaries of Sindhu. Then Suvastu, Gauri, Svetyavari, and Ashmanvati river. So Suvastu is a Swat, and then Gauri, the Panchkora river. All of them are I mentioning. Ashmanvati is a kind of river which can be identified with a Kunar, like that. I'm actually the reason for that. All of this analysis you can see in the book itself. I'm not delving into that. And the Amshumati river, which is another name for Yamuna, Marudpratha and Vitastha. So a lot of interesting insight on the identification of the Marudpratha river, where most of the scholars have difficulty in identifying this river. I have successfully identified it. And then this Vajinavati, Urnavati, and Silamavati, like that. That's some people consider it as synonym of Sindhu river, but it can also be a tributary like that. And then the Samudra is explained. So Samudra, just like the 30 plus rivers, Samudra is very prominent in the Rig Veda. So again, this is a kind of you can say it goes against the Aryan invasion theory, because the Rig Veda, if you read the entire Rig Veda, more than Saraswati, the Samudra is mentioned. So they have a past in the ocean, in the shores of ocean. If not the Rigvedic people who have composed Rig Veda, but the immediate ancestors of the people who composed the Rig Veda came from the ocean. That is very clear, and it very clearly mentions Southern Ocean. So this particular ocean is not some Caspian Sea or anything. It is a real ocean, like ocean is, that is the like for example the Arabian Sea. That very clearly it is you can find in this particular area. And then I'm just reconciling the Rigvedic whatever I have discussed, the Rigvedic geography with the current archaeology, because that is an important part. A lot of exaggeration has come into the Rigvedic chronology, which is actually confusing the archaeologists, because when they excavate, the dates are not exactly like falling in the imagination, whatever is imagined about the chronology of Rig Veda. So there, the dates are almost falling somewhere in the 4000 BC range, where you have all the locations, etc. mentioned, or the geographical area get a sufficient, you can say, material culture, so that it's something like a complementary to the Rigvedic period. And two surprising things I can tell. This Sindhu Saraswati civilization has three phases: early, mature, and late Harappan phases. And surprisingly, the Rigvedic chronology also have the same three phases: early, middle, and late Rigvedic. So there is a lot of correspondence between them. Chronological correspondence. Then if you look at geography, again another surprise. Wherever the Rigveda is mentioned as the Rigvedic rivers are mentioned, same place you can see the Sindhu Saraswati civilization cities and or colored potteries sites. So if you look at what I'm saying is, both the chronology of the Rigveda and the chronology of Harappan civilization is matching. Both have three phases. The geography also is matching, because the OCP, that is or colored pottery kind of material culture, ends somewhere at Ganga River. The eastern terminus of this particular culture is close to the Ganga River. And that the OCP is contemporaneous to the Indus Valley cities. And OCP plus Indus Valley, that is Indus Valley cities, their span ends at the Kabul River, Kuba. That is the westernmost tributary of the Sindhu River. So Rigvedic geography is describing rivers which are from Ganga in the east up to Kabul River in the west. The same place you get the Indus Valley cities as well as the OCP cultural OCP sites. So your geography is matching, your chronology is matching. So definitely there is no second thought about on connecting them. So those these things are all mentioning here. And finally, you have the conclusion. That is I mean, it's a sum total of all the the tabulations of all the rivers which is analyzed, all the kind of migrations of the different people like Yadus, Durvasas, the Indo-Europeans. So I'm explaining the migration of the Indo-Europeans from somewhere around like between Saraswati and Sindhu. Mostly they were living somewhere between Chenab, that is Asikni and Sindhu River. So Vidasta River, Asikni and Vidasta are some kind of a local boundary where all the Indo-Europeans were living together at the same time, sometime in the past. From there, they migrated to the Afghanistan and then to the Central Asia. From Afghanistan, some group migrated to Iran, Turkey, and Greece. And from Central Asia, some group migrated to this Western Russia and then Europe. And then they reached as far as the Ireland in the west. So that very clearly we get it in this particular book. And that particular part of Indo-European migration is only summarized in my book. But if anybody wants to have more details, they can read the Srikant Alagiri's two books. That is Rigveda Historical Analysis and Rigveda and Avastha of the Final Evidence. So that is all primarily about, and then I'm the chapter number 36 I'm considering as a Rigvedic Atlas, where all the maps are consolidated, Rigvedic geography maps are consolidated. And the appendices, I am showing the Rigvedic studies done in 2011. So basically it is about this Rigveda wiki, which I have created in 2011, which it contains around 1,300 pages on the Rigveda with the Rigvedic data. I think more than that, I think 1,500 pages. So that is what mentioned here. And then the list of Rigvedic devatas, Rigvedic poets, Rigvedic meters, like Trishtup. Many of you will be knowing Trishtup is the largest, the most popular Rigvedic meter. And then comes Gayatri, then comes Anushtup, like that. Then the Rigvedic patrons, that is the kings, around 400 kings are listed. And I'm also having one chapter on the translators of Rigveda, where I discuss Shayana and then the English translators like Griffith and Wilson and Jamieson. And then you have the bibliography and index. So endnotes have converted into footnotes. So basically the bibliography and index you will get in that book. And here, this slide, because it's the book, the readability of the book involves knowing about these notations, because it's a book is written in English, so Sanskrit words, I have used this IAST notations, like A is represented like this, and A with a dirgha, it is like this. So many of the people will be familiar with it. Most of the books are most of the books on the Rigveda or anything related to the Mahabharata, Ramayana, they are published, especially with the well-researched books, they will publish with these notations. And maybe if I'm just introducing a few brief elements of the which I have explained very in detail in the book. That is, one is the triangle. This is the triangle of Rigvedic transactions. So basically, you have the devatas like Indra, Agni, Varuna, like that, and then you have the rishis or the poets or the composers, whatever word you choose. So you have this Gautama, Kanva, Vishwamitra, Vasishta, like that. So, and then there are patterns. They are the kings like Devadas, Sudas, all of these Rigvedic patterns. So this is the total Rigvedic ecosystem. And anybody reading the Rigveda casually, they will not be able to understand or recognize these information in the Rigveda. That is because the primary purpose of the Rigveda is recitation of the hymns in praise of the Devatas. So invoking the Devatas, you will get some special powers, and of course the consciousness elevation, everything is happening. And as a result of your increased means awareness, increased vigilance, etc., a lot of material benefits also coming out. Like for example, kings get victory in the battles, etc. And once they have after invocation of Indra, when a king gets victory in the battle, they will also support the rishis and provide all the sustenance for the rishis. So the rishis, the pattern sustain the rishis. The rishis invoke the devatas, and devatas bestow blessings for the rishis and the kings. So this is the kind of this is all the Rigvedic translation that you can see throughout the Rigveda. All the Rigvedic hymns are about this, like that. And this is the primary subject of the Rigveda. So any kind of ritual recitation of the Rigveda, that is what normally practiced in the tradition. They will not very easily recognize the geography and chronology. For that, a separate analysis is required. And that is the kind of analysis that researchers like Talagiri or myself, we are doing actually. So this is the reason why, for example, so many people have reading Rigveda, so many people are reading other Vedas, but they are not getting this, for example, they are not focused on this information which is inside that. That is because their objective is different, because their objective is the primary objective. But when a researcher research on the geography or the chronology, that is a secondary objective. And so when you analyze it with that objective of recognizing, it's very simple. Like you just find out what are the names, place names, and etc. mentioned in the Rigveda, and then start digging and then finding out insights. And that is how we do it. And then the Rigvedic Anukramani, that is something that I need to introduce. So I have seen in the social media many people talking about now, for example, there is a lot of discussions happening. Like for example, when you work for Dharma, people say that you don't need to give credit to the person who is doing it. And they'll say, look, the Rigveda, because Rishis has contributed hymns to the Rigveda, but nobody has claimed that particular hymn as belonging to a particular Rishi. I mean, it's like nobody claimed authorship, but it is not true. That because people say it generally in a colloquial manner because they don't have familiarity with the Rigveda. Every hymn, who is the composer, is well mentioned very clearly in the Rigvedic Anukramani. It is like an appendix to the Rigveda, and it is part of the Rigvedic. Like for example, when a guru transfer the Rigvedic knowledge to a Shishya, this Anukramani is also taught to them. So it is well known, like each mandala, each hymn, that is each of the book, each of the sukta, each of the rik is the equivalent of sloka in Mahabharata and Ramayana. So it's a 2 lines of poetry, that is a rik in the Rigveda, similar to sloka in Mahabharata and Ramayana. So each of the sukta, there is an author. That is very much. For example, the mandala, this is the 1.1. That is the first hymn of the first mandala. It's a poet is Madhuchandra Vishwamitra. So he's a descendant of Vishwamitra. Or if you look the Sukta 129, that is first mandala 29th Sukta. The Sunashepa Ajigatri is the author of it. Or this one, 8.885, Krishna Angirasa. Like that, every hymn got an author. So it's not like they are not credited or anything. And this is also important, like our current generation also should understand every contribution, you should not think that like that person who's contributed should not be credited. That is, it has to be. I mean, even the rishis, ancient rishis they have done like that. And for example, in this meter, Gayatri, Pankti, all of things, this meter also is, you can get like in which meter, in which vrta, the Padya or poetry is written. That is also well known, very clearly on, and which Devata is the central Devata in the of each hymn, each of the sutta. That is also well known. And this is what some fundamental information that people require when you read this my book or any book on the Rig Veda, like for example the Talagiri's 2 books, etc. So basically, you can see what you can see is the mandala map of the Rig Veda. So you can see the first or mainly the oldest mandala is the 6th mandala. It is like the primary rishi is Bharadwaja, and then the 3rd mandala Vishwamitra, and 7th mandala Vasishta, and the 4th mandala is Vamadeva Gautama, and the 2nd mandala is Agrit Samadha, and the 5th is Atri. And this was the oldest part of the Rig Veda, more or less. And the 8th mandala was somehow created like an appendix to these mandalas, actually the family mandalas. So it contains no particular major rishi. So it's all the rishis, their descendants have authored hymns to the 8th mandala. And the 9th mandala also is very interesting. All the suktas related to Soma, that is the Soma preparation, that is the biggest ritual in the Rigvedic period. The Soma preparation hymns are collected together and put here. So the 9th mandala came later to the 8th one, like something like an appendix. It's great. And after that, a little time elapsed. We can even say a little time elapsed, and the 10th mandala is created. So you can see the 10th mandala, there are 191 hymns. And the first mandala, I put it like this because this mandala is very special because it spanned into the middle Rig Veda. Most of it is in middle Rigvedic period, but little bit into the 8th. See, there is a contemporaneous with the 8th mandala. It's few hymns are contemporary to the 8th mandala. Similarly, few of the suktas are contemporary to the 7th mandala. So little bit into the early period, little bit into the late period, and mostly into the middle period. That is the first mandala. And you see the 190 here, the number of hymn suktas in the first mandala and the 10th mandala are the same because they are like kind of synchronized between each other. So this is how this first mandala is coming. And for each of these particular mandala, there is a major king, like Divodasa is the major king in the 6th mandala period. Bharadwaja is the major priest. And in the 3rd mandala, the Sudas, the descendant of Divodasa, was the major king. Vishwamitra was his priest. And soon after, Vishwamitra went to his own expeditions, like conquering of Kikada, etc. And then Vasishta became the king of, the priest of or advisor of Sudas. So these two mandalas, 3rd and 7th, are more or less contemporary, slightly in the same period where Sudas lived. So the early part of Sudas Sudas reign, Vishwamitra was the priest, and that was that mandala 3. All the events in mandala 3 are related to when Vishwamitra was the priest of Sudas, and all the information in mandala 7 is a period when Vasishta was the priest of Sudas. And then you have Sahadeva, who is a descendant of Sudas, somewhere in the early 1st mandala period. Sahadeva is in the early 1st mandala period. Sahadeva's son Somaka, he is mentioned as the major king during the 4th mandala period. Like somewhere in the 4th mandala period, like that. And after that, after Somaka, there was no major king of the Tritsu Bharadas. All of them are Tritsu Bharada kings, a special branch of the Tritsus, a special branch of the Bharadas. And in the Mahabharata, their descendants are known as the Panchalas. So their dominance ended by the fourth mandala. After that, there are no major king. So in this transition period, from mandala to 5, 8, 9, the transition period, the Panchalas were pushed into a small region in the Kurukshetra, Kuruchangala. And then later the other kings become dominant. And you see the 10th mandala, you see? This person is very famous, very much popular, well known to you. Shantanu. Shantanu and his priest Devapi. So of course in the Mahabharata, there is a slight variation, like Devapi is mentioned as the elder brother of Shantanu. But of course that kind of a variation you can expect in Itihasa, Puranas, like some information, there will be some little bit of ambiguity, and quite natural for information coming from ancient period. So you can see here, the Kurus or the other branch of the Bharatas become dominant. The Shantanu is one of the major king in the 10th mandala. And subsequently, you have the Kurukshetra period. And you can see at that time what happened. It's very clear, like the Kurus or the Bharata branch, which give rise to the Kurus, they were dominant. Of course, the Panchalas are like second dominant, and there was a kind of big conflict conflict for dominance between the Kurus and the Panchalas, etc. I can see. And the Panchalas, of course, at that time, they have lost that territory in the dominant region, between along Saraswati. And also in the Ganga, also, like if you say that the most dominant region also to the west of the Ganga, that is the region between Saraswati and Ganga is the most dominant region. So, but in the Mahabharata, the Shantanu and his descendants, like Dhritarashtra, Vichitravirya, Dhritarashtra, and the Pandavas and the Kauravas, they were dominating that region, and Panchalas was little bit pushed into the eastern side of the Ganga. So that is the continuity that we can very clearly see in the between Rigveda and the Mahabharata. And then this slide, basically, this is also well explained in the particular book Rivers of Rigveda. So many of the people have an impression. Of course, after Srikant Talagiri published 2 books in 2000 and 2008, wherein he explained that the Rigveda is actually having chronological evolution with 6, 3, 7, like that, early and middle and late Rigvedic period, etc. Many people were not really accepting that, etc. So, but it is also part of the tradition. For example, the Aitareya Brahmana, if you look at it itself mentioned, is about 6 suktas in the 3rd mandala to be late. So it's not something that late evolution of the Rigveda is not something that is introduced freshly into our discourse. This is also mentioned in our traditional texts like the Aitareya Brahmana. So this particular line comes from the Aitareya Brahmana, and then you have other late hymns based on certain principles of number of hymns and other characteristics. This many number of late hymns are identified by Oldenburg during his study of the Rigveda, etc. So you have both the tradition as well as other new scholars who have discovered the evolution inside the Rigveda. And here you can, for example, if you can see here, these are part of my book actually. So, for example, in the Rigveda there is the mention about the 5 Panchajanas like Anu and Brihyu and Puru. This is the Puru, the sub-branch Bharata, and Shikshwa goes. All of them are Yadus and Turvasa. So those same kind of people, they are spread across this in the Sindhu Saraswati civilization. For example, if you look at some artifacts we got from Tholavira here, or in Mohenjo-daro, like that, it have a lot of symbolism which are very close to Yadu tribe. So basically, you can get from that these cities are actually result of the settlements of the Yadus, who actually, what happened, the Purus were the dominant in the Saraswati region. They pushed the Yadus to the south, like that. So they dominated the southern region, and then because of the cities, Sindhu Saraswati civilization cities grow in that area, naturally have the symbolisms of the Yadus actually. So all that. And you can, in this particular books, you can see a lot of linear charts like this. So this linear charts, for example, in Mahabharata and Ramayana, you have a linear charts of the Purus, Bharatas and Kurus, as well as of the, in Ramayana you see the Ikshvaku linear charts. But the parental chart, that the base of that chart is actually the lineages which you can get from the Rig Veda actually. So this is basically a linear chart based resultant based on the analysis of the data inside the Rig Veda. So you can see like some of the lines. This is the Bharata main Bharata line mentioned in the Rig Veda that leads to the Panchalas. Then there is a subordinate Bharata line, some Varana here, and then it leads to the Kurus and the Shantanu. And of course, the dominance of Panchala Panchala dominance became secondary to the Kurus. And that is the period of Mahabharata. That is why the Mahabharata, the main focus is on the Kurus, and the Panchalas are like the second competitor, kind of, you can see in the Mahabharata. And then you can see other kings, etc. Similarly, you have the composer lineages, like you can see the Vasishta and Agastya lineages here, Kutsa lineage, then Vamadeva. Here actually you can see the Bharadwaja, one of the major lineage. All of this you can see, like this is Sindukshit Priyametha, who is the composer of the Nadi Sukta, which is very famous. And the largest percentage of the geographical data in a single sukta of Rig Veda, that is a Nadi Sukta. That is a 75th hymn of the 10th mandala, authored by Sindukshit Priyametha. And here, this is basically that one slide which is explaining that the geography of the Rig Veda is the same as the geography of the archaeological material culture. So in the material culture, what I have considered the Indus Sindhu Saraswati civilization, that is people call it Harappan civilization, and the this bluish color, little more bluish color, is the ore-colored pottery civilization. Ore-colored pottery, which both of them are contemporaneous. All of them are from 4000 BC to 2000 BC period, which is I consider as the Rigvedic period as well. And in that, they are all both corresponds, even ditto to the river names. So the up to Ganga, it is mentioned in the Rig Veda, and this cultural spread is up to Ganga. And here, if you look at, it is somewhere like this is the Kuba river is there. So somewhere up to here, the Sindhu Saraswati civilization is spread, and the westernmost river mentioned in the Rig Veda is the Kuba river, Kabul river. All these things are matching up. And here actually I'm mentioning about the most important sites, locations mentioned in the Rig Veda, that is the Manusha and the Ilaspada and the Bharati Tirtha, the river Abhaya and Saraswati, all of them you can see actually here actually, and all this information. All the details I have explained in the book, so that I don't want to dwell deep into it. And here are like, for example, some of the rivers which are very controversial, like the Western researchers try to identify, like Saraswati is identified in Afghanistan. They try to identify these rivers like Hariupia and Yavgavati, etc., somewhere in the west of Pakistan and all. So I have explaining with the very clear data that they have to be located in Haryana. All those things I have mentioned. And this is basically a very useful tool for anybody who's confused with the mandala one. As I mentioned, the mandala one is a very confusing mandala. And this is the mandala which has confused many chronologists of the Rig Veda, so that they proposed diverse different chronologies which are not correctly connecting with the Rigvedic data. Because this particular mandala is updated along with the 10th mandala. So because of that, it contains old and new information. So all the colors, different colors indicate for example, the red. This is the early Rigvedic period mandala, some suktas in the first mandala, and some of them are in the middle Rigvedic period, and then the late Rigvedic period, and different composed has composed this particular mandala. So the one person who was properly classified the first mandala is Srikant Talagiri, and more details you can see in his book like that. And these are some maps. I just run through it because it's all part of the book. These maps, all these maps you can see in the book, which explains the this is the Dasarajana battle. All of these. There is a battle of Asikni, etc. So this is all explained in the book very clearly. And some evolution of the rivers, like Sindhu River flowing, the flow of the Sindhu River, the course all become different in different parts of the mandala, like that. So different, so that the joining of the rivers, they are all different in different phases, the early, late, and middle Rigvedic period. All those things, and certain migrations of the people, like tribes, everything is mentioned here. This is actually an information about the Avestan text Vendidat. So when you say Aryan invasion theory, we are refuting Aryan invasion theory. We need to also explain how the Iranians spread from India, etc. So these are some information you can find in the book, where some of the early locations where the Iranians lived. They were living along with us in the Saraswati, Haryana region, in Punjab. Then basically the Kashmir region, Haryana, they mentioned it as Haryana Veja, like that. All of this are actually identifying and explaining so that they don't have any doubt where they came from. All these things are explained in this. And some of the tribes that are currently in the Afghanistan, I give an explanation. So it's very unfortunate the Pakhtuns has become terrorizing the world after changing their religion, etc. But they are actually ancient tribe which is mentioned in the Rigveda, and that is why it is very unfortunate that they have become like this in the current 21st century. So that their migration also is mentioned in the book, like that. And that's I'm actually showing the meeting place of the Sarama Pani conversation, etc. Everything is very interestingly mentioned in this book, and some trade networks which can be glimpsed in the Rigveda, and some problems related to the Itihasa I am trying to introduce in this particular book. But more of that will be mentioned in the second book of on the Ramayana, etc. Like that. So this is the overall about just giving us overall summary of the book, and very crisp, more of the details. The book is around 360 plus pages. Everything is very clearly explained in it, analyzing the counter narratives and trying to reason with that counter narratives, and firmly establishing that the Rigvedic geography is primarily located between the Ganga River and the Kabul River in the west. So there is no scope of any Saraswati in the Afghanistan, which is actually a very simple statement to make because of this data, the huge data that is available with us, and other minor things like some confusion regarding the location of some rivers like Haryupya, Yavyavedi, etc., which the Western scholars have placed in different locations where it doesn't make sense, like in the west of Pakistan, etc. And this is overall the book is talking about, and of course it gives a kind of a very in-depth understanding about the Rigveda. So I term it as something like most of the people, I'm not saying everybody, talk about Rigveda like it is some kind of a distant planet that they look in the sky. But when you actually go and land, like for example, the Mars was like a small dot in the sky, red color dot in the sky, in the till the time we started having telescope that become a kind of a disk with some features. And within some starting with some 1980s, we have spacecrafts, and there. Then in the 21st century, the people like robotic vehicles landed there, and the picture you get is different. So same thing is like when you look at Rig Veda just as a name, one of the 4 Vedas, whatever insight you get is very limited. But when you actually go and land on it, go through each of the suttas and also the rigs, you get a totally different picture and much greater clarity. And it is quite natural that your change with more information. So with this, I conclude, and then I'll ask call G to go to the next stage if there are some specific questions, etc., that we can answer.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Jijitji. It was, as I expected, that it will be a lot of information, and you have just kept yourself to the beginning portions of the book and not any details. But still, there are a lot of questions which come to mind. So there are people actually here who have raised their hand. So I will start with them. The first question is from Aditya Dhopatkar, please.
Yes,
Please
yes. Namaste to all of you. I hope I'm audible before I ask my question.
Yeah, you are audible.
Yes. So I've actually got 2 small separate questions. One is related to the rivers, and one is related to the contemporariness between the Puranas and the Rig Veda and the Yajur Veda. So I'll quickly phrase my questions. Are there channels of the Yavyavati and the Drushadvati today? Are the Sabarmati River and the Mahi River, as they are called in present day Eastern Gujarat, mentioned in any other name? Are there Rigvedic old Sanskrit names for all the trans-Himalayan rivers of which are the tributaries of the Sindhu? Is the Kailas Manasarovar region mentioned because Ikshvaku ancestor Mandhata had gone that side? And is Sita Nadi the name for the Tarim River, as we see on some web pages? This was my first question. The second question was, could there be some contemporariness between the early Puranas and the late Rig Veda, as well as between the early Yajur Veda and late Mandalas of the Rig Veda, that can be inferred from river names or otherwise, because the final organizing of literature was done by Bhagwan Vedavyasa much later? That's the end of my question. Thank you. I will go on to mute now. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Aditya ji. You have many questions in these 2 questions. So please take over from here.
Yeah, I will answer as I remember, because it is better to ask one question and get the answer. But I will definitely got a gist of your questions. So on the contemporaries of for example, Rig Veda, basically, if you look at the social aspects of Rig Veda, in the early and the middle and the late Rigvedic phases, there are a lot of differences. So in the early and the middle Rigvedic period, there are no Varna divisions. So there are no 4 Varna divisions. Basically, you can see the words like Brahmana, etc., but it's not referring to any, from the context, you can understand it's not referring to any, but also it's not referring to one of the Varnas. Basically, after the 4 Vedas emerged, the word Brahmana has got a specific meaning, like Yajur Veda, related to Yajur Veda, this Atharva Veda. So you have Hotri, Athvaryu, Udgatir, and Brahmin. So 4 different types of the Ritvijas or priests. So the first one is related to Rig Veda, second is to Yajur Veda, and third to the Sama Veda, and the 4th, that is the Brahman, to the Atharva Veda. So that is another change in the name, the word Brahman. And then in the 10th mandala, you have the 4 Varnas very clearly mentioned. So that is only one verse in the 10th mandala. The the Brahmana word is used in contrast to the Rajanya, Vaishya and Shudra. So that is where you have to say the beginning of the four Varna is there. So if you look at that way, the Yajurveda basically is a Veda which is talking about the ritual usage of the Rigvedic mantras. So in the Rigveda, basically that elaborate rituals that is mentioned in the Yajurveda is not very clearly formed. Of course, there are Soma-related rituals in which the Soma is given to various devatas, like there are specific rules to give it to Indra, Marut, and Ashwins. So they are, you can see that particular tradition itself evolving in the early, middle, and late Rigvedic period. But in Yajurveda, you see that it's much more sophisticated, and the number of the Ritvij, it increases to something like 8, like that. So there is a complexity increase. So in my chronology, if I connect the Yajurveda, I will be connecting it with the 10th mandala period of the Rigveda, or best like somewhere in the between like the 8th, 9th, and 10th mandala of the Rigveda, and primarily like more correspondence to the 10th mandala of the Rigveda, where the society become more sophisticated, complex, rituals become more sophisticated and complex, and you need a more professional, more officiating priest for specific functions, etc. So that is how the chronologically Rigveda comes. And even if you look at the Rigveda, Shantanu is the kind of youngest king mentioned in the Rigveda, but descendants of Shantanu is not mentioned in the Rigveda. But in Yajurveda, you see mention about Dhritarashtra, and Dhritarashtra, son of Vichitra Virya, etc. And in the Atharva Veda, you find the mention of Parikshit. So definitely, if using that itself, you can say that somewhat close to the 10th mandala, the Yajurveda, and Samaveda is nothing but the collection of the Rigvedic hymns, rendered poetically, much more melodiously, musically, that is rendered, a collection of Rigvedic hymns. 90% of the Samavedic hymns are Rigvedic hymns, maybe 10% new innovations. So that is how the Yajurveda is concerned. But Puran is a totally different game. A lot of people confuse, because the word Puran means very ancient, very old. When people automatically consider that Puran maybe, some people have a confusion that Puran is older than Rigveda. No, it's like Puranic. If you look at the style of the Sanskritam and the way of the narrative, the Puranic narrative is very close to the somewhat into the maybe little earlier than the this Chandragupta Maurya period, and then also extending to the Gupta period, like that. So maybe approximately, but see, detailed study can have a different give a different dating, more clear dating between 4th century CE, that is the Gupta period, to something like Chandragupta Maurya period. And there are a lot of debate about how old is Chandragupta Maurya, the Mauryan dynasty. But more or less, you can say 4th century BC, or maybe at the earliest 9th century BC. So that is the kind of time period the Puranas are emerged. And you can see a lot of historical kings mentioned in the Puranas, like Chandragupta Maurya and Mahapadmananda, and etc. They are mentioned in the Puranas. But of course, some certain very rare, like 5% of the information in the Purana, they will talk about ancient personalities. That is sure. Even today also, you can see somebody create a literary work in which they talk about Pururavas, or Nahusha, or Yayati, or Manu. Even today also you can. So information they are talking maybe about very ancient people, but the text themselves is not that ancient. Throughout, of course, information from Purana is used to corroborate information in the Rigveda. So, for example, the information about the 5 people, Panchajanas, that is in the Rigveda, that is actually supplemented by information in the Puranas that they are the descendants of King Yayati, like that. So, wherever the data in the Purana is supporting the Rigveda, that information we will accept as authentic. But wherever it is at variance with the Rigveda, we can have to consider it as a new innovation in that period in which the Purana is authored. So that is about that I think I answered that question. And regarding the rivers, right, Sabarmati river, etc. So whatever analysis I have done, I have 3 chapters dedicated to the eastern extent of Rigveda, western extent, southern extent, northern extent, like that. Four directions of the extremes of the Rigvedic geography. So very clearly, I can say the easternmost river is Ganga. The tributaries of Ganga river to the east of Ganga, they are not mentioned in Rigveda. And to the west, the westernmost river mentioned is the Kabul river. And just like Ganga is extending to the Bay of Bengal, the Kabul river, that is Ubha, extend from somewhere in the Charasada region of Pakistan to almost the eastern Afghanistan, somewhere deep into the Afghanistan. So since the river is extending to that point, we can only guess, like maybe the Rigvedic people have also extended to that point, like that. But of course, there is another terminus that is given to you by the archaeological spread. So depending upon that, like for example, the time period we are associating with Rigveda is the different phases of the Harappan civilization. So using that, somewhere around 2000 BC, cities are there. In whichever region it is spread, that is exactly the region in which Rigveda is spread. If you look at that way, it is not mentioning any rivers in the Gujarat, for example, Sabarmati. And if you also geologically, if you look at the rivers in Gujarat are very new, not very ancient rivers, because a lot of dynamics happened there. Geologically, a lot of dynamics happened there, and many new rivers, everything is emerged in the Gujarat region. So whatever information in the Rigveda, the southern flowing rivers that is mentioned in the Rigveda are only Saraswati and the Sindhu river. That is because the Saraswati and Sindhu are draining into the Southern Ocean. That is the Gujarat Ocean, Gujarat Sea, the Ran of Kutch. That was a sea in the ancient period, and the Karachi region. So since these rivers are north to south flowing rivers, we can only say that Rigvedic people are familiar with the geography until the Southern Ocean. That is, anyway, it's not thus, but it's a reality. So definitely the Rigvedic people, the ascetics, the sages and the kings might have ventured into the Gujarat area, but they are not mentioning anything specific into the Rigvedic corpus.
There is one portion which is on the Mansarovar Lake and Manhata. I think I'm not sure.
Yes. Yeah, right. I forget. It is a question I myself asked in the book. So that is very interesting that this question is asked. So I have looked at the Satluj River in the book, in the chapter dealing with the Sadatru. I looked at whether the Rigvedic people have any awareness about the Manasarovar Lake. So I didn't find anything specific to that question, because some information like some lake name it should mention, but it is not there. But the tributaries of Sindhu up to like in the Ladakh region, that is what I have considered like when in my river analysis, I find that they are represented in the Rigveda. So they have definitely like Sindhu Chit Priyametha, who is the Nadi Sukta composer, who is the composer of the Nadi Sukta, which mentions the large number of 18 to 21 rivers in the Rigveda. He is an expert of the rivers, and it is very highly likely that he traced the rivers in the Sindhu River to its source. But he is not he doesn't have sufficient geographical information at the composition of the Rigvedic period to name them. But that is very clear, because that river is not, I mean, that lake is not mentioned. But definitely it has up to the, like for example, Ladakh, the capital Leh. Definitely that much the people have visited. That much is very clearly found in the Rigveda.
Thank you very much. And now next question is from Mr. Lakshman Kamduri ji. Please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Oh yes, namaskar. My basic question is, you said somewhere that the migration of the Rigvedic people came from the Southern Ocean, or it went along the Southern Ocean. My question is, the Kizadi excavations that happened recently establishes it's like around the same period as the Harappan period. You think the same people from the south went up and settled in the north, the Harappa civilization? That's my first question. And my second question is about the Ramayana. According to Nilesh Okji, it happened around 10,000 or 12,000 years ago. So how does that fit into Rigvedic time scale that you,
Yes. So this particular question about period is very, very much important because, for example, what I would say is there is a kind of a well-established migratory pattern. And that pattern is established a long way back before the Rigvedic period, etc. So, if you look at the genetical maps that have been produced, it's independent of my research, but Human Genetic Research, the Human Genome Project, they have published some maps. In that maps, you can see the initial East African region, the Homo sapiens sapien species has originated. From there, there is a genetic trail that is leading, passing through the Arabian southern seashore of the Arabia and southern Iran, and then it is coming into the Gujarat sea coast.
Right.
From Gujarat, there are two branches. One is moving along Saraswati River to the north, and another going down to the south. And the southern line goes along Maharashtra, Karnataka, Kerala coast, goes to the Tamil Nadu, and then it passes to the eastern shore Andhra, Orissa, Bengal, and then Assam. And from there it goes to the northeast and Southeast Asia, and from there it goes to Australia. So that is how the migratory pattern goes. So this migratory pattern is it's very ancient, like 70,000 years ago, etc. So what I am saying is, see, so many cultures have risen and fallen after that, right? And if you're very faithful to the this anthropology and etc., you will know that there is a Holocene period, like from 12,000 BC on, the last ice age ended. And then you have farming settlements. Farming settlements, a lot of floods happened, and then there was farming settlement somewhere around 9,000 BC to 8,000 BC. That is the period when human beings started having the farming cultures. And farming is what created the culture. Like culture means as we understood, right? Till that point, the human beings are like hunter-gatherers. Basically, they were hunting animals, etc. And in the Mahabharata and everywhere, you see the remnants of the hunter-gatherer cultures in the Mahabharata, Ramayana. They are the like some Rakshasas, not all of them, but some of them, who are just having some danda in their hand, going after and killing animals and then eating them, sometimes raw flesh or sometimes cooking and eating. So that was the culture predominantly. I mean, if you can call it a culture, that was predominantly until around 9,000 BC. After that, so 9,000 to 8,000, 7,000 BC, etc., you can see farming settlements happening. So this Rigvedic, if you look at Rigved, right, many people because of the Aryan invasion theory, which has compressed everything into 1500 BC. Everything compressed, and then they say Ramayana at 800 BC, Mahabharata 600 BC, etc. In reaction to that, so many people reverse that. Like instead of contraction, they have expanded it actually. So one expanding that they don't care about the when these people give expansion of the chronology, they don't care about what is the climate of the period, etc. So somewhere around 12,000 BC, etc., it was not sustainable for farming, etc. Because very you can see the ice age is ending. Whatever the region, right, the Rigvedic region, that is Kashmir and Punjab or maybe very close to Kurukshetra, it's very cold actually. And whatever the information you get from Rigveda is not matching with that kind of a cold climate. It is in Rigveda, what you get is a kind of a little bit moderate climate. That is what is seen in the Rigveda. And in some of the some of the mandalas, you also seen the camels. So all these people proposing the dates very old into 12,000 BC or 20,000 BC, they are not seeing the Rigvedic data. Maybe they have a kind of a telescopic view of Rigveda. So maybe some secondary information, etc. So when I'm looking at the entire data in the Rigveda, I know so many places camels are mentioned. And if you are careless and say that Rigveda is in 20,000 BC, then you are giving legitimacy to the Aryan invasion theories. Because in 20,000 BC, camels can be only found in this Bactria and Central Asia, etc. So you are giving your entire idea about out of India theory, etc. You are actually refuting that, and indirectly, without unknowingly, you are supporting the Aryan invasion theorists, because you cannot find camels in 22,000 BC, etc. You cannot see camels in this area, in the Rajasthan area, Rajasthan and Indus, between Sindhu and Saraswati, there are no camels. So if at all you want to be sticking to the out of India theory and also explain why camels are there, it has to be the date has to be closer to the 2000 BC period. That is the end of the Rigvedic period, closer to the 2000 BC period. Otherwise, because just for enthusiasm, you bring the date to some older than the Ice Age, the last glacial maximum, etc. You will be ending up in trouble because you have not read the Rigveda completely. That is what I said about the day, older date. People who are proposing older date, that is what I want to say. They are not seeing the entire data in the Rigveda, neither the geography nor the flora and fauna of the flora and fauna information in the Rigveda, nor the river geography. None of them they are caring about. I understand most of them actually looking at some astronomical information.
Right.
Which, for example, there are 10,000 like 555 verses in the Rigveda. Astronomy verses are 1 or 2. So will you discard the 10,555 verses and the data inside it and just go with astronomy? That is not a correct approach, because you have to look at other aspects, right? So where do you put camels? You just make it disappear. No, you cannot do that. So that is what. So I think I didn't explain. So what I'm saying, there is a kind of a pattern, right? Already established by the people who have migrated in 70,000 BC, etc. So Rigvedic culture chronologically we can place it between 4,000 BC and 1900 BC, and that is a specific culture which is related to the Sanskrit language, etc. It doesn't mean that there were no culture earlier than that. There may be, and we don't have any literary artifacts like Rigveda to represent that. So during the period of Rigveda, the people migrated in the same way. That's what I'm saying. So the same people who are in the Gujarat area, some group migrated along Saraswati to the north. They are the Manu people. We call them as Manu, and this can happen in 7,000 BC, etc. That is the best time I can say that it has happened. And the same group of people, some of them migrated to south. So definitely in the seashore, seashores are now the current archaeological understanding is that seashores are the place where you get the oldest cities. So definitely in the Kiladi, etc., in the seashore. And of course, you should understand that there is some exaggeration also in the date. The date is actually the actual date I can say from the archaeologist's mouth. It is somewhere around 1000 BC. So it's not very old also. Like if you get some other dates mentioned, please check with somebody like some archaeologist instead of looking at some internet information.
No, Dr. Vedam was mentioning that, Dr. Raj Vedam.
Right. Yeah, what is the date he mentioned?
3000 BC.
Yeah, that's possible. Like for example, between 1000 to 3000, there is no problem, because the Rigvedic chronology we are saying it is from between 4000 to 1900 BC. So definitely you can have like that. And second is this coastal cities. Current paradigm is coastal cities can be older than the riverine cities. So definitely these possibilities are there. And I would say, and again, you have to qualify the settlements also, right? Like for example, the oldest site in the Haryana's Kurukshetra region is the Birana region, right? Everybody knows that, and it is 7,995 BC. That is close to 8,000 BC, and that is the period where we consider as the migrations which are mentioned in the Purana, like the migration of Manu because of floods, etc. happened. So Birana is like even you can connect it with the first settlement of Manu itself. But you, when I say settlement, people automatically get a kind of impression that it is now automatically you go to the Mahabharata serial kind of impression that thinking that it's a big palace, etc. No, it's not that. It is basically realistically this is like small mounds with some seven or some 15 small domes, that is houses, 7 and 15 houses, etc. are spread across in a settlement area. That is what you get in from Birana. So, but if you look at in Rigveda, some level of kingship was already there. That is king, and he's a dominion, and a lot of priests. So that is like some kind of a sophistication. That kind of thing happens starting with Rakhi, and that is around 4,000, 4,000 to 3,000 BC, and it matches well with the Rigvedic period. So, for example, when it was mentioned about kings like Sudas, they are very powerful kings, and you can definitely like connect settlements like Rakhi, that kind of this kings. So, and Ikshwaku kings are very powerful, sometimes even powerful than the Bharadas themselves. So, it is mentioned in Rigveda like that there is some kind of powers like this Trikshis, Anus, etc. Powerful. Like they are like from the Bharata point of view, they are also powerful like that. There are verses in the Rigveda. So these settlements can be corroborated with these kings. So there is no kind of ambiguity or lack of clarity between the archaeology versus the Rigvedic chronology or anything like that.
Thank you. That was very clear.
Thank you very much. I would now request Jaipalji to please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thank you very much. Very interesting discussion. My question is normally related to the chronology that was depicted today. I'm specifically referring to the placing of Mahabharata. According to the chronology that you have shown, Mahabharata would be more modern than 1900 BC. And as somebody else mentioned that, Nilesh Oak and other people and Professor Vyas from Memphis, they have placed Mahabharata looking at the astronomical science in the first 4 chapters of Mahabharata and looking at the software, placing somewhere around 3100 BC. And if you look at the ice age that you mentioned, the last ice age, the tail end of it was happening around 5300 BC, and that was 10,000 years of it. So if you look at that, the extent, my understanding is the extent of ice age, last ice age in India was not that extent as you see in Europe and other continents, because we are at the more tropical latitudes than Europe is. And so to have the same extent of last ice age in Europe, to extend that, that's what Western thinkers do. They extend that to Indian subcontinent at the lower latitude, which doesn't make sense to me. So if you could depict some light on the chronology and placement of Mahabharata around 3100 BC, how do they come about? Thank you.
So the chronology of the Mahabharata is not anchored on the ice age, first of all. And we are not talking about the ice age, but the last glacial maximum, that is something like 12,000 BC. But even otherwise, the anchor point of Mahabharata is not ice age. So because you have, for example, as I mentioned, during the Rigvedic period is one period of culture, and after that the Aitihasic period, that is Mahabharata and Ramayana, and after that the Puranic period is there, and then your historical period starts, like historically accepted period or historical period, whichever terminology you can use. So in that, Chandragupta Maurya and Mahapadmananda, everybody is mentioned. So there is an intersection between the Puranas and the historical period, because historical narrative accept Chandragupta Maurya and Mahapadmananda as like really existed kings. Okay, that is like I'm just giving a like Western narrative, but we don't believe that. But that Western narrative, even from the Western point of view, also they are accepted as historically lived kings. But if you look at it in the Puranas, you get interesting information, because Puranas come between the historical period and the Aitihasic period. And there are Puranic statements, like in Vishnu Purana, it is mentioned that 1015 years is the number of years elapsed between the birth of Parikshit and the coronation of the Mahapadmananda. So this is the anchor point, like that connects the historical period with the Aitihasic period. And these are the real anchors of relevant in the dating of the Mahabharata. So then this particular 1015 years elapsed, that is mentioned in very prominently in the Vishnu Purana. And Vishnu Purana is like considered as the most stable Purana, like because it's because of its authorship. It's one of the oldest Purana, etc. And follows every kind of structure defined for a Purana. So it's very much authentic. In that, you have this connection. So what do you make out of this connection? So you can either increase the date of Chandragupta Maurya and Mahapadmananda and say that from that date onwards, add 1015 years, and that will be the date of Parikshit. The Parikshit date, any researcher on the Mahakurukshetra War knows very well what is Parikshit date, birth date. Parikshit is born next year, the 1 year after the Kurukshetra War. So when you get the date of Parikshit, that is equal of getting the date of the Kurukshetra War. So anyway, this particular 1015 years mentioned in the Vishnu Purana, you don't take it as absolute value, because in the Vayu Purana, the same gap between Parikshit and Mahapadmananda is mentioned as 1050. So it can be a clerical error, because typically happens in the Purana, or it can be a readjustment to consider that there could be some unknown kings, etc. So similarly, in one version of the this Matsya Purana, you get that this gap is 1500 years. So this is the maximum gap that is mentioned in all the Puranas, all the versions of the Puranas, all the Puranas. The maximum gap mentioned is 1500. So there is no more any excuse for extending this chronology. So assuming that the maximum gap between Parikshit and Mahapadmananda is 1500 BC. So that includes all the allowances that you can give for missing kings, etc. Then look at the Mahapadma date. Mahapadmananda, they can let Mukherjee and all the many historians, they have dated between 300 BC and 400 BC. Take the oldest date, 400 BC. 400 BC and you add 1500. Then you get 1900 BC. So that is the maximum distance, temporal distance that is allowed by Vishnu Purana and all the Puranas between Mahapadmananda and Kurukshetra War. So that is the anchor point, and that anchor point tells you that you have to search Mahabharata or Kurukshetra War after 1900 BC, because that is the maximum stretch possible. So after 1900 BC, if you search it, next comes like you mentioned that this Nilesh and other researchers like him have used the planetarium software and references, astronomy references in Mahabharata to corroborate a date. So what is surprising, or what is the problem, is that that is not the only research, right? I have conducted the Kurukshetra War date debate, etc., and invited many scholars with the different dates of Kurukshetra War. So I have my own expertise in this comparative analysis of Kurukshetra War. I have also had a 1 hour lecture done for that in the Sangam talks, etc. So there are so many researchers who do the same methodology. Like the methodology is same. That select the astronomy reference versus in the Mahabharata, compare it with the sky planetarium computed sky chart using the planetarium software like Stellarium or Jagannatha Hora, and then corroborate them, arrive at a date. This has been done by so many researchers, and you will see so many dates coming in after 1900 BC also. So it is nothing very unique about any particular research. So same methodology is used by so many number of people, and some of them are falling in the acceptable range. So Ashok Bhatnagar is one of them, who has given a 1793 BC as the date of the Kurukshetra War. And R.N. Iyengar, who is a professor in IISc, he has given a date of around 14th century date. I don't remember exactly, but 1400, around 1400 BC date. Then Krishna Kumar Ramamurthy has given it of 1504. That is in the 16th century BC. And then you have got Mohan Gupta, who has given a date in around 1900 BC, 1946 or something like that. So there are so many dates which actually fall within the allowance provided by Vishnu Purana. That is there. And of course, there is a chronology revision also. So you mentioned about dates around 3000 BC. So that also we have to give some weightage to that. Some of the researchers, in fact, many number of researchers have given a date of Kurukshetra War around centered around between 3000 BC and 3100 BC. Vedavirarya and Manish Pandit and then Saroja Bala, Jayasri Saranathan, and so many people. So how can you substantiate those dates? So what all of them, because everybody knows about the Vishnu Purana lower limit, right? So what they have done is they have made a chronology revision proposal. Based on the chronology revision proposal, you need to uplift the date of Gautama Buddha, which is currently considered as around 500 BC, 500-600 BC to 1800 BC. That is a proposal that has been put in the research community. So this Gautama Buddha is lifted from 600-700 BC to 1800 BC. Then subsequently the Mahapadmananda and Chandragupta, everybody will be pushed to that 1800 BC, etc. And subsequently, if you add 1500 years, just like Vishnu Purana says, you may land up in 3000 BC. That is the only alternative that is currently being proposed by some researchers who is interested in having a Mahabharata date at 3000 BC. So that particular research is ongoing, and I cannot take that information currently into my book because it is not conclusive. So that is the current situation that we are in.
Thank you very much. I would just like to make one or two comments, quick comments. Nothing to, it's not a question. That one is regarding the Shaka Samvat, which Vedvirji has mentioned, that the missing of 600 and odd years. Number one, and number two, the corresponding. You already mentioned about the what's called the Mahapadmananda portion. The next second comment is regarding the camel argument. The 1200 BC camel could not be in the Afghanistan area because it was glaciated. Because 10,000 years ago, approximately glaciation started winding down. So modern camel to survive in Afghanistan, etc., during that period will be almost impossible. So that argument should be looked at probably more carefully. So
I'm saying basically the camels can be found somewhere like in the region to the west.
Yes,
not necessarily Afghanistan.
Yes. So now next question is by Mr. Vijendra Agarwal. Please unmute yourself and ask your question.
In fact, I did not have a question at all. I don't know.
You have raised your hand. there.
Oh,
So,
I'm sorry. I think by mistake. Then I'm sorry. No problem.
okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
The next question is from Rajat Vasundara Murthy ji. Please unmute yourself and ask the question.
Namaste. Thanks so much for a wonderful talk and this opportunity for asking a question. So during the talk, you mentioned that the Yadus were pushed southernmost towards the place where Saraswati enters the ocean. And you also mentioned that there are some differences between the Kuru settlements and the Yadu settlements. Could you highlight a few differences? That is all my question. Thanks.
Yeah, yes. So one is like everybody's source is that same location, like the Gujarat sea coast. And sometime in the past, the Manu has, because of the flood, the word Manu actually I considered as like representing a group of people, the Manu people. So they have fled and they have gradual, even though the narrative means that it is a single day event, basically it's a gradual migration from the like where the Saraswati is joining the ocean. From there they migrated along Saraswati and settled in the Haryana region. So that is why the older settlements like Birana at 7,000, 8,000 BC we see in the Haryana. After that, there was a diversification of the Manu people. There we refer to the Puranas, which is because it's corroborated well with the Rig Veda. From Manu, there is a Ila in the Rig Veda. They really don't mention the Manu Ila as a daughter of Manu, but she is mentioned as a priestess and an instructress of the descendants of Manu. The children of Manu are instructed by Ila. So, and Ila's son Pururavas, he is mentioned very prominently in the Rig Veda. So, there is even one sutta dedicated to Pururavas. So, that is one. And then Pururavas' son Ayush, again in Mahabharata mentioned the Ayush, and then in Rig Veda again you see the Ayush is mentioned. And a little bit predominantly we can say that, because so many verses dedicated to Ayush. And Ayush and Nahusha is again mentioned in the Rig Veda. Again in the Puranas, there he is elaborated. And Nahusha's son Yayati. And after that, Rig Veda didn't mention that Yayati's 5 sons are Yadu, Turvasu, Kuru, Anu, Drihyu. Rig Veda is silent about it. But of course, because of the corroborative information in the Mahabharata and the Puranas, we can say that these 5 tribes are descended from the Yayati. So after that, they are all in the Haryana in a small region along between the Apaya river and the Saraswati river, very small region where this is the beginning of their settlements, etc. When they're diversified, definitely, naturally, there will be conflict of for territory. So there are for example, some of the oldest battles in the Rig Veda, there is mention about pushing people from or making people from leaving from that territory, etc. And there is a hint that the people who are moved like that is the Yadus. Of course, it's just passing references in the Rig Veda, but in the Mahabharata, you know that the Yadus are their capital city in the Mathura, and Mathura is definitely south to the Hastinapur Indraprastha, right? So naturally, like it is a corroboration with the Rig Veda, right? Okay, they were all together in the Haryana, but slowly the Yadus were pushed to the south. And naturally, you see in the Mahabharata their capital city Mathura in the south, and from there, these Yadus slowly returned back to the original homeland. Like that is what they go they're seen in the this Gujarat region. And of course, in the Mahabharata, again, it just like Manu's migration happening as if in 1 day or 3 months. Krishna's migration from the Mathura to Dwaraka is mentioned. But in the Mahabharata poetry, it shows that Krishna is on that just because of the defeated by Jarasandha, he is just moving to the Dwaraka. But in reality, such migration will take place many centuries, like at least a couple of centuries. So what is understood from that particular statement is that the Yadus were spread from as north as Mathura, along the Sindhu Saraswati rivers up to Dwaraka in the Gujarat. That is what very clearly mentioned. So Krishna was only just moving his center of power from Mathura to the Dwaraka where his relatives are there. Basically, relatives means other Yadavas are there living there for many centuries. So that is what we can historically say about this particular migration. So you have corroborative evidences in the Mahabharata, two cities of Yadavas, one Mathura and another Dwaraka in the south. And these two cities very clearly established that the Yadus were spread from Mathura in the north to Dwaraka in the south. And second evidences are like some of the excavated cities in the Harappan cities in the like somewhere in the Mohenjo-daro. Even the name Mohenjo-daro has some connection with Krishna. Some researchers think like that. And there are many researchers working in the decipherment of Indus script say that some of the script can be translated as the names of Krishna. That is what my reference is about. So some of the Indus script artifacts refer to something related to Krishna. Sometimes Krishna's name itself, different synonyms, or something related to Krishna is also found in the Harappan cities, especially the cities little bit southward, like Mohenjo-daro and this one more city, Thodavira, etc. That is why it is mentioned. And about Purus, the Purus are like, for example, the Purus cities. If you search for Purus cities in the Harappan, amongst Harappan cities, they have to be in the Haryana region, like something like the Rakhigarhi or Sinoli, like that. Alamgirpur is the easternmost Indus Valley city, very close to Hastinapur. That is there. So any specific like specific artifacts we cannot find, but they are in the Kuru land, and that itself is a very important factor which weights them to be into the Kuru cities. And one more point I want to say, like cities change, some of the settlements change hands, right? So some of the oldest settlements or the oldest period of some of the cities, they may be ruled by Ikshvakus, and subsequently they will be ruled by Bharatas. Like that, the cities change hands. And I'm proposing some of the such changing of hands in my book, but I cannot corroborate it with the archaeology. But it's kind of a hint to the archaeologists, like if they agree with my pattern, they can search for that particular pattern inside the archaeological cities also. I'm trying to give some dates of when it was in the hands of Ikshvakus, when it was in the hands of there is another Kushikas, Vishwamitra's lineage, and when it changed hands to Panchalas, and when after defeating Panchalas, the Kurus take over the cities. So there are certain hints I am providing in the book, and if archaeological can corroborate it, that will be a great achievement for me.
Thank you very much, Ajitji. One small comment again, which I have forgotten so far, is that in the Avesta, it seems to be have mentioned that the original home of these people was Arya-Vajaho, and they moved out of that place because of the heavy snowfalls or the snow accumulations, and then they had I think 6 sojourns along the way, in which one was the Sindhu region, and then the last one was the Persia. I don't know, whatever it is worth. I just thought it should be mentioned. I would take the question by. Oh, you want to make a comment on that? So please.
Yeah. Actually, I have a chapter dedicated for that. The Sarayu River. In the Sarayu chapter, I have one section dedicated for the Avestan migration. So there are 16 places, 16 lands of Ahuras. So the Avestan speakers, they call themselves as Ahuras, and it is no surprise that they are same as the Asuras. And I have identified the Aryana Veja with the Kashmir Ladakh region because that whatever climates they have mentioned, very cold and very short summer, etc., very much fit with the this Kashmir and the Ladakh region, where the temperatures After the North Pole, the lowest temperature is recorded in one location in Ladakh. So everything matches quite well. And then second is they mentioned about Subda. Subda, that is they mentioned as a plain where there is a lot of cultivation happening. That is very much suitable match with Punjab region. And they also mentioned Varana, one region, and it is mentioned having 4 corners. So Varana has 4 corners, and that 4 corners in Kurukshetra also have 4 corners. So they very much matches. Then they mentioned about Moru, that is very much close to Maru, and the climate also mentioned as very dry, etc. So then they mentioned about Harahpati and then Harayu. So they're all related to the Rigvedic rivers. In my analysis, their last settlement was my identification of the 16 lands of Ahoras. The last settlement was in Afghanistan. And that is very much, I consider very much correct and in line with the Srikant Talagiri's analysis. Where after the Vedic period, they were somewhere in Afghanistan, yet to be moved to Iran. But currently, because they are now in Iran, so there is a tendency to connect everything with Iran. But that is quite natural. Like it happens, it has happened everywhere. Like the Kashi kings, their original locations were in Saraswati. But once they reached Kashi, that is the confluence after the confluence of Yamuna and Ganga, they try to change all their prehistory to the fact that they were living in Kashi for till eternity. So this is quite natural for anybody who migrates.
Okay, thank you very much. And I would first take the question from Pradeep Mishra ji, because Jaspal Singh ji, please, Jaspal Singh ji, unmute yourself and ask the question.
Yes, sorry for joining a little late actually, but I wanted to join early, and thanks for basically like putting this together. I appreciate that. So I come from as far as the knowledge wise, I come, and religion wise, I come from a Hindu Sikh family, and I was always like kind of interested in learning more about Vedas and Puranas. So you can consider me as a kindergarten student here, and I request speaker to kind of like suggest me or lead me basically to I just want to dedicate next 1 year like starting learning and getting some knowledge of Vedas and Puranas. So please lead me to some books or basically like some literature which is which I can just like refer in the next 1 year, Vedas and Puranas both, maybe on Amazon, or if there is anything published by you, please lead me to that. Maybe I can just request your email. We can get in touch post this call. That's fine too.
Yeah. I will leave my phone number or email address here. So please contact me, and I will pass it on to.
Yeah. So I just want to start somewhere and then like build on that. So once I start, spend some enough time, and then I'll get more involved actually and go into more detailed literature. But at least I want to start and get some basic literature of Vedas, basic authentic literature, and Puranas as well, and get.
Yeah, yes. So it depends upon how deep you want to go. As a kind of a basic understanding of the Rigveda, which is of course the expertise of area that I am in, which is the geography and the chronology. That two foundational books which is foundational to my book, they are the Rigveda historical analysis by Srikant Talagiri, and then there is a second book of Talagiri, that is Rigveda and Avastha, the final evidence. So these are foundational, especially if your domain is analyzing of the Rigveda from the point of view of chronology and geography, like that. But if it is about philosophy like that, then Arabindo's books are best, I would say.
Okay, so please share your email and contact number on this chat if it's possible, so that I can communicate over the email. And
I have a bandwidth constraint, so
you can give it. You can give me your. You can just tell your number and the email. I can note it down.
Yeah, I can. Please contact me. My number is 630 687 0887.
Sure, I'll get.
And I will get back to you with the information from Jijitji. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. The next question is from Pradeep Mishra ji. And please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, my question is that do we follow the Christian historians' chronology about Hinduism, or we have our own as described in Hinduism? Because as our Granth say that Ramayana is 9 lakh years old. So, and Christian historians want to believe us that it is 3,000 or even less than 2,000 years old. So, what is your view on that?
Yes, it's a very important question. There is these are two different things, right? For example, the history, like the Christian missionaries, they have a kind of a calculation based on Bible, and then they added up all the genealogy, that is Abraham and then Adam, Abraham, like that. After adding up all of them, they say that 4000 BC, around 4000 BC, the world is created, and the human existence is just around 6,000 years. That they have, Christian missionaries have mentioned. Okay, then when they came to India, then when they looked at our chronology, etc., it is extending beyond that period. So this aspect, there is no change in this aspect. For example, when I mentioned the Rigvedic period start from 4000 BC, it doesn't mean that we are not hinting that just like the Christian missionaries, we are not hinting that the world started at 4000 BC, right? What we are saying is that the composers like Vishwamitra and Vasishta, who has started contributing the suktas, that particular activity started after 4000 BC. So in the Rigveda itself, so many people are mentioned as very ancient, right? So in the mandala is the oldest mandala of the Rigveda. So you will naturally consider that as somewhere between 4000 to 3400 BC, etc. That is the period of that sixth mandala. But it will tell you about Manu. So Manu is not mentioned as contemporary in the sixth mandala. So definitely Manu is ancient, older than the Rigveda, older than the sixth mandala of Rigveda. It is mentioned Manu's descendants like Ila, Pururavas, Ayush, Nahusha, Yayati, so many kings after Yayati. Everybody is mentioned as a very ancient in the Rigveda itself. So that means chronology extends beyond 4000 BC. The Rigveda data says that the chronology extends beyond 4000 BC, and I am actually a little bit realistic and also very much aligned with the archaeology. I don't say anything which is not supported by archaeology. So I am saying that Manu can be like 8000 BC, 9000 BC, even 9000 BC also okay. Only one artifact I can connect with Manu is the Birana, which is dated to 8000 BC. Now comes the lakhs of years, I will tell you. So I have studied extensively the Yuga, the duration of Yuga, and there is a history to it. So in the Mahabharata, if you read Mahabharata, the Pandavas and the Kauravas and Bhishma Pitamaha are all discussing about there is like their current calendar. They are discussing the calendar of their contemporary period, and in that they mention the Yuga as Panjavarshiya. That is very important. This is something like people not awareness about the Vishnu Purana connecting Mahabhatmananda and Parish. Not many people don't know about it. So in the Mahabharata, current Yuga, the contemporary Yuga during the period of Pandavas, when they were living, that was 5 years. The total Yuga duration is 5 years. And the 5 years is only because there are lunar calendar and solar calendar. They can be correlated only in 5 years. Around 12 days of difference between lunar and solar calendar. 360 days solar calendar, 360 minus 12, around 348 days lunar calendar. they can be corroborated in 5 years, because in 5 years, 60 days will be Athika, and that is called considered Athika Masa, of 2 Athika Masas, and then they are corroborated in 5 years. This 5 year is called the 1 Yuga. And similarly, for such Yugas, 20 years. This is the kind of Yuga that was existing in the Mahabharata period. And after that, in the Purana, when the Puranas emerged, they started creating new definitions of the Yugas. So within Mahabharata Shanti Parva itself, the total duration of the Yuga become 12,000. There is a reason to that, because 20 years the Panchavarshiya Chatur Yuga, 20 years, they have corroborated with the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn, and it will Jupiter-Saturn conjunction happened in 20 years and 60 years. So that 20-year Chatur Yuga corroborated with the Jupiter-Saturn cycle, 20 years, 60 years, then it become 120 years. After 120, it become 1200 years, because some fractions are there. They use it for accommodating for some fractions. So 120 years become 1200 years. Some fraction get eliminated. Again, 1200 years become 12,000 years. Some fraction get eliminated. So 12,000 year Yuga is called Markandeya Yuga, that is mentioned in the Vanaparva of Mahabharata and also in Shanti Parva. And then last what they did is they multiplied the 12,000 years by 360. Then after that 360 multiplication, they get the large Yuga that you know currently. That is the most popular Yuga definition that all the people are quoting. That is around 42 lakhs. Like it's a 42 lakhs plus. One Yuga is Kali Yuga is 4 lakh plus, and all the 4 Yugas combined 42 lakhs. That particular expansion, new definition of Yuga, that was very late, somewhere in the period of Aryabhatta. That is maybe some 2-3 generations before him, not more than that. So you see, during the Kurukshetra or Mahabharata period, the Yuga definition was the 5 years or maximum 20 years. So once what happened now after the Aryabhatta period, now we are living in 21st century. What you do is you use the current existing Yuga definition and think that things all happened lakhs of years before. But it's our own misunderstanding, nothing more than that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I think that was the last question. Thank you very much, Jijitji. It has been very engaging period of 2 hours almost. Thank you very much. And thank you everybody for attending and being patient and hearing and asking questions. So with that, we will bring this session to end. I hope that the Jijitji will give some additional talk on this books at some stage. So, so thank you very much. Namaskar to everyone.
I have provided the foundation and also shared the links to the books. So most of it with the maximum detail you can find inside the book itself. And we have not discussed the logic and the methodology followed, etc. But they are all explained very elaborately in the book itself with all the maps, everything. And I designed it such that it can be used as a textbook also in future.